Moderation. Okay, whatever. Managing moderators. Okay, so I don't think anybody's gonna even come in here, right? But I just want to say it anyway and just start because it's probably gonna post after. But there's a lot that I need to say. I hope that I'm able to like communicate it in the best way though. But okay. So I know I use the channel now to post about the podcast, and we haven't done the podcast in maybe like a week or two now. But I wanted to step away from the podcast for a little bit because I needed to like get my mind right? Because I feel like when I was on YouTube originally, I was in a season of my life where God was like redoing things. Oh, thank you. Like God was redoing things in my marriage, right? So it wasn't a wilderness season, but it was more so like a restoration season, right? Where God is rebuilding and everything. Now I'm at a different point in my life. I feel like I don't want to just talk about marriage anymore, right? Like I don't want to not talk about marriage because I'm a part of marriage, right? Marriage is my whole thing, but I mean more so like I don't want to focus on just the negative side of marriage, right? Because everyone or most people that are on my channel are here because they're standing for their marriage, right? And they're trying to get answers on, well, how do I get my husband back? How do I get my wife back? Because it's scary and it's hard, right? But I feel like I've moved on now and I'm at a part of my life where God has rebuilt, or he is still rebuilding, but my husband and I are in a different place. And I just don't want to continue to talk about standing and all these different things. But I do understand and realize that God has called me to help so many people. And I had to come to a place where I was okay with that and what that looks like, right? So initially when God told me, like, I want you to go back to your purpose and your calling, I was like, I don't want to be back on YouTube. I don't want to do YouTube anymore because, again, everyone that's on YouTube is looking for standing. They're looking for, how do I fight for my marriage, which is beautiful, right? Like God wants us to fight. But I will say, and I'm going to be honest, a lot of people don't want to pivot. A lot of people don't want to, okay, I'm standing, but let me focus on this side of things, right? So anytime someone finds my channel, they message me and it's always about, well, how do I fight for my marriage, right? And I have so many videos talking about all that stuff, what I did and all of that. But I think the mindset of people needs to become not, how do I get through where I'm at right now? But more so, I know God's going to bring me through this. Help me to change my attitude and prepare for when it's done, right? Because by being proactive in that sense, then you understand that I trust God and I know it's going to be done. But a lot of people, when they're standing for their marriage, they come in thinking, this looks hopeless. I don't know how this is going to get fixed. I don't know if God can do it, right? It's never, I know God's going to be able to do this. Let me focus on, how do I prepare my home for when it's ready, right? How do I walk in marriage now when things are good? Because it's like people forget that the standing season is temporary. So if it's temporary, right, why would God want you to continuously be in a place where you're trying to figure out how to stand? So now I understand that there are people who get into standing and it's like they just started, right? Like their husband or their wives just left a month ago and now they're a month into standing. So I understand the newness of it all and trying to, like, gain your footing. But if you've been standing now for, let's say, 3-4 months, 5-6 months, maybe a year, it's like, why are you still trying to figure out how to stand or how to get through it? Your mindset needs to be, well, what is it going to be like when we are restored, right? So to bring it all back, that's where my husband and I are at now. So when I want to talk about marriage, or when I do talk about marriage, it's going to be from a place of, here's what it looks like once it's rebuilt, once God is rebuilding it. And I want the people that are listening to change their mindsets to be able to accept that. No longer, how do I get through this because it's so hard? But rather, I know God is going to do it. Let me focus on preparing for when it's already done, right? So I've been sitting with God just trying to figure out like my purpose and my calling, and like trying to get myself ready for all this new and abundance of things that I want God to bless me with. And I kept trying to figure out, like, why am I not getting that yet? Like, why am I not having all these things that you promised me, God, outside of my marriage, like just for me, right? My career and like whatever you need me to do. And I was like, God, I'm doing everything, right? So just to be transparent, I'm working on being intentional. I'm working on being consistent because I wasn't always consistent. I wasn't always intentional. I was a huge procrastinator, y'all. Like, I would wait till the last minute to do something because I knew it was going to get done. It's just going to get done when I want to do it and when I have the time for it, right? Which is not good. So I've been working on all these things. I'm like, well, God, like, when is my preparation going to be enough, right? But then I realized that God was trying to show me, and I made a video about this on Instagram too, but I wanted to talk about it on YouTube because, again, I want to shift everyone's mindset from just standing for your marriage to now let's prepare for what God says he's going to do, right? Because having that mindset again shows that you believe and you trust that God is not a liar and he's going to do what he says he's going to do, right? So I was like, okay, God, I'm preparing. Why is it not enough? And God revealed to me that my perspective of myself wasn't in the right place. So a lot of times we're asking God for all these new things, right? God, bless me with a change in my career. I want more money. I want more stability. I want X, Y, and Z. But we don't realize that if we're not seeing ourselves the way that God sees us, how can he bless us with those things, right? So how can I open these doors for you if you're not even sure you can walk through these doors? Why would I bless you and put you in rooms that you never thought you could be in if you don't think you could ever be in these rooms? You don't even believe in yourself, but you want me to bless you with all of these things, right? So it's kind of like how can I use it in a metaphor, right? So let's say you want a car and you want this fancy, real fast car. But once you get the car, you're like afraid of it. You're afraid to get in the car. You're afraid to drive it. You don't want to turn it on. You just want to sit there and just be able to say that you have it. You want to look at it because it looks good, but you don't want to actually get behind the wheel. It's the same thing, right? Why would you ask for something or pray for something if you don't even think that you can have it, right? Because then that's a faith problem. So I wanted to remind you or encourage you to continue to also pray for God to help you to see yourself, the way that he sees you. Because even if you want to bring it back to marriage, right? In order for you to believe that you can have this new marriage, you have to be able to believe that you deserve it. Because a lot of us, when we're standing also, we kind of blame ourselves and we start to question and condemn ourselves. Like, maybe I was at fault. Maybe I was the reason for X, Y, and Z. But if God is saying, well, I want to bless you with this marriage and you didn't ruin it and it's not just your fault, why are you choosing to believe that? You know what I'm saying? Like, you got to be able to see if God says, I should have this, I believe I should have this. I believe that I'm worthy of this. If God puts you in a role or a position, believe that you can do it. So, for example, motherhood, right? And again, just being transparent. Me being a mother is not something that I've always been secure in. I never thought that I was a good mom. And even now I still struggle. And I know a lot of moms struggle with that. But that was one of the roles where I said, God, I don't know if I'm cut out for this. I don't know if I can be a good mom. I don't know if I can be a good wife. All my roles that I'm in, I'm like, God, I don't think I'm good for this. I don't think I can do it, right? And God's like, well, the roles that I put you in now, the things that I've already given you now, you don't even see yourself as worthy to have those things. How can you be worthy to have this abundance that you're asking for? You don't even see that, you're worthy of this. How can I bless you? So I want everyone's perspective and mindsets to change again, right? Like, we're praying for God for things, right? And he's telling us, yes, I'm going to do this for you. Okay, yes, God is going to do it. What next? You have to move on to the next step now, which is believing that you can have it, believing that you're worthy of it. You know what I'm saying? Believing that if God says I can have this, if God says I deserve this or I need this, then that's what it is. And I'm going to believe that, because why would you believe anything else, right? And one thing I said on Instagram was, if you believe that God made a mistake in choosing you for something, then you're calling him a liar. And who are we to say that God's lying? If God says that we are deserving of something, right? Or if God says that we are worthy and that he wants to bless us, or that we're even ready for something, who are we to say that we're not ready? Because now you're saying, well, God, what you said is false. You're wrong, right? Now you're believing in yourself. You're believing in your own mentality and how you feel about yourself and how that's right. Because a lot of times when we're standing, we pray and say, well, God, help me to see my spouse, the way that you see him or her, right? But we got to do that for ourselves too. We got to be able to see ourselves the way that God sees us in order for us to really reap the benefits and the harvest and the blessings that we're asking for, right? Because all of that goes along with faith. We think that faith is just, well, I'm just going to trust that God can do X, Y, and Z. But sometimes you got to have faith in us too, and who we are and in who God called us to be. Faith is not just God's works, and what he can do, but also a part of that is God chose you. God chose you, you got to have faith that he did that right. He said it right. You are the right person for that. You are the right person for this role. You are worthy of it. You can have it. You know what I'm saying? No more condemning yourself. So I wanted to say this. I know a lot of times we are constantly praying for new things. And I know God tells us to prepare for things all the time. And we think that our like tangible preparation is enough. Like, I'm cleaning up my house, right? Maybe God told you to clean up your house, get rid of some things, you know what I'm saying? Get more consistent, become more motivated, all these different things. But preparation is also a mentality too, like mentally and emotionally, you have to prepare yourself for these things. So I wanted to remind you guys of that. And I also wanted to talk about why the podcast hasn't been up in a little bit, because, I think we're going to film this week again, but I needed to get myself together, right? I needed to figure out who I am, because another thing is God is using me for so many people. I'm like, God, I don't even know who I really am yet. You know what I'm saying? And it's like, how can I even be used if I don't know who I am? I don't know all of what you called me to do and who you've called me to be. And I want to know that first before I just start making these strides and doing all these different things. Like, I want to be able to value what you're telling me to do. And if I don't have any value or see any value in it, then how can I do it efficiently, And that's another thing too, right? Do you see value in what God is calling you to do? God is telling you to stand for your marriage. Do you see the value in that? You know what I'm saying? Do you understand why he's doing that? Do you see it as worthy, or you're like, this is a waste of time? If God is calling you to move to a different industry in terms of your career, do you see the value in that? Or do you see it as, man, whatever, it's not worth my time. I don't like it. I don't see the goodness in this. You know what I'm saying? You got to value it the same way that God values it, so that when you walk into it, you appreciate it, you understand it, you're doing it efficiently. So I don't want to hold y'all too long. I don't know the next time I'll be on live. I'm just being honest with y'all, but I know that God is telling me, like, I got to get back to it. I have to get back to that place, and I want to. But like I said, I want my heart to be in it. I want my spirit to be in it. Emotionally, I want to be ready for it. I want to want it as much as God wants it for me. So, that's just a little background of everything. That's what I'm going to try to do moving forward. And I hope that even though this was only, 12 minutes, and it shouldn't have been that long, that you understand what I'm trying to say in all of it. So I'll see you guys whenever, y'all. Bye.